this room. I don't think it's because they don't want to hear Bob Livingston. Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm Allison Moore, and I was asked to do the Austin version, the Austin chapter of Why There Are Words, which was started in Sausalito a few years back. And Peg Alsford Purcell is a writer. I went to the Warren Wilson MFA program for writers with, but at different years. So we meet each other in the reunions every year now. She decided to start a reading series in Sausalito and then start a small press. But in order for the press to have, or for the authors to have places to read, she decided to open up different chapters of Why There Are Words. So there's LA, New York, Sausalito, Portland, Minneapolis, Austin, did I say New York?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, and soon to be New Orleans. So people that have got a book out can sort of have a circuit already. It's like being on a rodeo circuit. You know, it's already established for you. So this is, I started this about a year and a half ago, and I only do it quarterly because it's just a lot, and I'm on the road too all the time. So we call this a national neighborhood of writers, and so writers can feel at home no matter where they are in the country. So because this is Austin, I thought we've got to have a songwriter each time. It would make no sense to do this in Austin without music. So that's, and you can hear the evidence of that off stage here. Tuning up is Austin's legendary Bob Livingston, who's a member of the Lost Gonzo Band. Anybody remember them? Okay, old timers from Austin. He's laughing. He toured and recorded with Jerry Jeff Walker and Michael Martin Murphey, Ray Wylie Hubbard, a host of ne'er-do-wells out on the road. And he's also had an unusual gig with the State Department. I don't know, do you still do that? You're too busy, right? You're not listening to me.
No, he doesn't hear you.
Okay. The State Department has a program, and I'll let Bob tell you a little bit about that, you know, where they have songwriters that go out all over the world as sort of musical ambassadors. And so Bob has been dubbed the ambassador from Austin, the Ambassador of Goodwill of the state of Texas. He's working on a memoir. I mean, this is a thing now with songwriters. They've been on the road so long, they've got a lot of stories to tell, bad motels, roadblocks, near busts, it's all there. And so he's gonna do a little bit of both tonight, to do the songs and the upcoming, it's not even out yet, it's not even finished yet. What's it called? Bob, what's it going to be called?
What is it going to be called?
The book.
There was no plan B.
There was no plan B. Here's plan A here tonight. Bob.
Malvern Books. Original Spirits. 1,000 voices will play, and in the clouds of fog on, and the light shines on her original spirit. And I need to know I'm a part of that original spirit. I need to know it. Where my aim is true, and I write that royal blow. And I know truth, well, I know it when I hear it. And it's original spirit. So take me down south where the river's age goes back to the original spirit, and the India ink is flowing over the page down to the original spirit, and the rhythm of life is still young here in Malvern books, and we all So they said I could do a couple of songs and then read something from this, and I'm going to do a song. There's why I'm going to take this upon myself to do this now. But there's a song that co-writer is with. I wrote most of it, but she just sort of kind of walked into the room at one point and somehow became right. Isn't that how it went? I'm nervous because she's in the audience, and her name is Penelope. Dr. Penelope Jane Ellis Davis from the University of Texas. Big ideas. This woman has big ideas about ancient Rome. Now what does that have to do with me? Well, in Vicksburg, there's a battlefield, and Penelope was interested in sing how we commemorate. Am I telling the story so far? Commemorate our heroes, in battle. And so we go out to the Vicksburg battlefield, and it's very Romanesque, right? There's Roman columns, and there's a pantheon, a smaller version, but it's there. So there's this big connection. She was able to write the whole trip off, and so there were ghosts flying around, and Penelope caught a couple of ghosts, and they told their story. And in 15 or 20 minutes, she had written it down on a Palm Pilot and printed it up when she got home. As I remember correctly. And since this is about close calls, golden leaves overhead and beneath me, and the sun setting slow on the bank. And I've come here to counter the Union with my brothers in blood and in rain. These waters so peaceful, carefree, that eddy and sing by my side, hide a torrent of furious hatred, and they flow as a massive divide. And my world is the home of my father. It's a world that he built with his hands, and I hope and I know what I'm doing, 'cause I feel I must fight for my land. I can't live with this reason for dying. Is that fair? I can't, so we'll sing it twice. I can't live with this reason for dying. With these captives we've carried away, losing family and homeland and sweethearts, held to the ends of their day. And my world is the home of my fathers. It's a world that they built with their hands, and I'm not really sure what I'm doing, but I feel I must fight for my land. But we're all flesh and blood, my brothers and friends, not master, not slave, don't you see? And this messy delusion I've come to defend has become it's become unacceptable. Now these waters trees turn to sorrowful amber, right? And these waters run cold from my heart. And dear friends, I'll always remember you. But for now, it is time we must part. My world is the home of my father, but it's a world I must now leave behind. I can't live with this reason for dying, 'cause I feel I must fight for mankind. Golden leaves overhead and beneath me, and the sun setting slow on the bank.
I have a new CD out, and so I haven't been doing a lot of the other things. It's hard to figure out, especially when you're trying to memorize the songs that you wrote. And I don't like to see music stands much.
It's for writers, they can't help it.
I know. So I'm also that. Sometimes I really love music stands. So what happened was, so I've lived this kind of colorful life in a way, and I started my book before any of them, and it's taken me a long time. And I have a press, it's called Texas Tech Press, and it's a whole different ball game as far as being able to get it out quick. And since I'm not very good at getting it out quick, they're probably going to be even worse. So, but they wanted me to do a book, a memoir. And so I told these stories for a long time, and I've also got to credit other people that told me you need to write a book because there was a lot of colorful stories concerning Jerry Jeff Walker and Michael Murphey and Wylie Hubbard and all those years in the 70s, because I was in the thick of it, and I played in the Lost Gonzo Band with both of those guys and later, and so I've sort of been able to make a living of somewhat to here as a musician in Austin, Texas. And I don't play here all that often because you can't make any money in Austin, Texas. But that's the way I see it. But it's hard to make a living anywhere in the arts, I think, and try to get people to come and see you and pay a cover. That's really important. Or not, because I love to play, and I play for free all the time. So, I got 2 or 3 chapters here, and I'll read a couple of them to you, depending on how I feel. And I've been writing out of this program called Scrivener. You know, y'all use Scrivener? You could give me some lessons on this, but it's amazing for me to be able to do it. And so I printed this up today and almost ran out of ink, but here we go. He charged at me, snarling and spitting and cussing and slobbering. I'd already hit him a few times and smashed him into my pickup door like a rag doll. We wrestled around the side yard, asses and elbows, all dusty and bleeding, our bodies scraping on the limestone rocks, poking out like dull knives out of the hard hill country ground. I hit him hard with an almost virgin fist, and he fell back for a few moments and then came after me again. He whacked me a good one on my left ear, the one that still rings. Some primal memory suddenly took over, and I actually got into a three-point stance, the one my high school football coach Freddie Akers drilled into me at Lubbock High. I threw my glasses off and I crouched. Here he comes. I sprang up hard, my fists together under my chin, elbows out, a perfect battering ram. Up and out, smashing my forehead just under his chin. It's a wonder I didn't take his head off. Well, I tried. He fell back in a heap, and I was on him. He got the better of me for a while, but I ended up on top of his face. Everything I grabbed was sweaty. I didn't mean that. At least I didn't think I meant it until now. He got the better of me for a while, but I ended up on top, in his face. Everything I grabbed, it still sounds weird, but okay. Everything I grabbed was sweaty, slippery, and greasy, and I couldn't get any traction. I tried to pull his hair out from the roots, and it just slipped through my fingers. No matter how hard I tried to do real damage and rip his ears off or his eyes out, I couldn't get a hold of anything, and all my efforts went for nothing. Then, with my hands around his throat and looking into his eyes, I saw a most horrific sight. He was grinning like a gargoyle, laughing through the spit and blood, his breath reeking of whiskey and beer. He was loving this, and I realized that he wasn't taking this seriously at all. I was beating the shit out of him, and he was laughing. It was surreal and somewhat demonic. I'd only had one other fight in my life with Greg Cobb in the fifth grade, and here I was about to strangle Jerry Jeff Walker. And the day had started out so promising. That's the first chapter, and I see things I'd rather fix. I don't know what. And then the plan is that this book is going to have a journey within a journey. And so this is chapter 2, called Indian Summer. And it starts out with a quote. Travelers, it is late. Life's sun is going to set. During these brief days, you have strength. Be quick and spare no effort of your wings. And that is by Jalal al-Din Muhammad Rumi. 1981. It felt as though there were two suns in the yellow afternoon sky. The air was so hot I was in a crouch, trying to find some coolness low to the ground as I scuttered along the filthy, dusty, dirty road towards the railway station in South India. I was fighting to breathe. In front of me walked a bearer, a man in a dingy red turban carrying my bags and even my guitar piled on top of his head. He was quite tall and thin, sure of step, and grinning wildly, showing his perfectly decayed teeth as we marched through the oppressive heat. I was drenched with sweat and thirsty as the dry road before me, even though I was happier than I had been in a long time. 10,000 miles from Texas and happy as a clam. It was April 1981. John Lennon had been shot 4 months before. Back in Austin, nothing much was happening. Without much notice, Jerry Jeff had decided to go on a solo tour with John Prine, and for us in the band, that meant no work and no money, and right before Christmas. Scramble and improvise was the name of the music business I knew. Nothing was for certain, and you had to have the right temperament and a thick skin to deal with this sort of gypsiness. By the time I learned to roll with the punches as a touring musician for hire in 1972, I had some fairly interesting gigs under my belt. I played and recorded folk rock with two of the most colorful singer-songwriters in the country, Jerry Jeff Walker, Michael Murphey, Geronimo's Cadillac, Viva Terlingua. Things were going reasonably well. But now in 1981, following my man around a pool of tepid monsoon water in the middle of our jaunt, I was overwhelmed by fatigue and jet lag. In awe of the crowd, the pressing of bodies, the unbearable heat, the smells, the clatter and the chatter. I fell and stepped behind, trying to keep up, wiping my face with a bandana and putting up a good front as if I did this every day of my life. Onward, I shouted. I really did. Ah, yes, yes, the red turban said as he spat some foul-looking red goop on the road. Blood, I wondered. As my bearer and I ambled along the noisy street toward the railway station, I pictured myself as an international vagabond, a one-man corps of discovery on the loose. This was high adventure and hard traveling, like I'd never traveled before. On pilgrimages such as this one, times are supposed to be tough and your mettle tested. Keep walking, I told myself. There were at least 4 lanes of traffic on the one-lane road. Cars, lorries, taxis, motorcycles, scooters, jeeps wove past auto rickshaws, bicycles, army and police vehicles still more taxis, a dead cat or two, and a swirling mass of humanity, people, everything and everyone belching smoke and fumes. It was a game of chicken to the death, darting in and out of traffic every which way, head on, and all of it done in an immensely good-natured way to the tune of thousands of chattering, smiling, laughing, shouting, hurrying people, dodging traffic, running a mile a minute, shouting orders, strolling, eating a variety of odoriferous foods, performing bodily functions in the open, smoking, chewing and spitting, red, yellow, brown. Meanwhile, I was wilting down to nothing in a cacophony of sound, with the magical India spread out before me in all of her jewelry and wonder. If there is more exotic, louder, colorful, rambunctious, historic, ancient, primal, musical, and artistic, confounding, crowded, awe-inspiring, smoky, smelly, devastatingly beautiful, and polluted country on earth, I'd like to know what it is. For me, India was the furthest out, and one day soon would be the furthest in. That was then. So what was I doing here on the other side of the earth in such an overrun and rowdy neighborhood? How did a boy from San Antonio and Lubbock end up on this exotic dirt highway in the wilds of Indian summer on a trek through this ancient wilderness of civilization? I'll try to make some sense of it for you soon enough. Maybe I should start at the beginning. Can I tell you a story? So that's it. So I probably have like 30 minutes.
Do what you like.
Well, I mean, I'm just winging it like everybody else. What do you think? What time is it? How long have I been doing it? I'll just do a little bit of one more. I kind of like to stay in India. So there's a couple chapters go by and then I'm back in India on the train. I don't know if it's a good idea or not under the circumstances. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. This is the first book reading I've ever done. This is chapter 5, The Wild East. Another quote. In India, the wilderness still exists. The indoctrinated wilderness of the mind, full of old, untold secrets and wild imaginings. And that's that woman, Arundhati Roy. I'm not sure. Okay, we're back. Trivandrum, India, 1981. The aeroplane ride from Austin, exhausted, with acute and consuming jet lag. Sorry, didn't make sense. What to do? I've been awake for 3 days. Maybe that's what makes it make sense. I've been awake for 3 days of constant travel and needed a second wind. Fueled by the exercise, the excitement, and the potato curry and the Brook Bond tea purchased from a street vendor, I seemed to find that elusive second wind. Our walk turned fast into a fast-paced romp through the constantly colorful downtown area of Trivandrum, followed by the endless stream of kids surprised at such a dude turning up in their midst, asking, "What is your name?" "George Washington," I actually said. "Bob Dylan." One or two emaciated dogs followed along, perhaps hoping for a miracle. What more miserable existence than to be a dog in India? By the time any morsel of edible material reaches its table, it's been picked through and cast off by untold hordes and is usually covered with flies and maggots. So with this royal ragtag procession meandering through the crowded streets, we finally reached the railway station. We passed by a group of onlookers that were staring at anything remotely interesting or out of the ordinary. I must have presented a rather sorry but otherwise astonishing sight to them with my red hair matted with sweat and my wide-eyed expression, because soon they began to follow along too. As my bearer and I continued on a crowded road, we were met with a riotous sound, conversations, high-pitched laughter, dogs barking, brakes squealing, motors racing, diesel smoke spewing, hammers pounding, and horns blaring, all at ears-piercing volume. There were signs painted on the lorries and many of the cars that screamed, "Please honk!" And honk they did. At intersections, around curves, at pedestrians, on straightaways, over bridges, down alleys, and at the few stray dogs that cringed in the gutters. Any excuse to honk endlessly. But unlike the West, where they honk angrily, in the East, the honk is good-naturedly. It's just to say, "I'm here, don't forget me." Later, I heard that you can fail your driving test in India for not honking long and loud enough. This really happened. At the station, there were literally thousands of travelers pushing and shoving to get in the queues for tickets and on board the trains. Many more were actually camped there on the platforms and in the halls, appearing as to have lived there all their lives amidst this tumult. Once again, my combat experience was needed as I fought my way with the rest of the crowd to the ticket window. I purchased a first-class ticket via the Trivandrum mail. With a wave of his arm, the ticket agent indicated the general direction of the train. At least a dozen trains were arriving and departing at once as I searched for mine. Wandering through the din, I finally found what I thought to be the Trivandrum mail and asked a passing conductor in his white shirt and navy pants to be sure. He said nothing, but shook his head no. I asked him, "Then please point to the right train." And he pointed to this one. So I said, "Is this the Trivandrum mail?" Once again, he shook his head and pointed to the same train broadly, and he said, "Ah, yes." I was losing patience. After repeating this charade a few more times, I finally figured out an important facet of Indian culture. In India, apparently, to shake one's head in that endearing way Indians do means yes, but not necessarily vice versa. To say no, one simply flicks his hand and clucks disapprovingly. After this revelation, the conductor laughed and said to get in the car, no reservations needed. Go find an empty berth, he said. I chose the newest looking car and told my bearer to follow me in. It was first class, but with no AC, only fans. In the South, only second class trains have an AC car, but there were none today. Ah, yes. The compartments were equipped with an upper and lower berth on each side and a small metal table that separated them. Most were full of commuters with whole families sitting and lying down, talking in rapid-fire Malayalam, playing cards, reading books and newspapers, smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee. I chose a compartment, walked to the entryway, and looked in. I saw that it contained only one passenger, a white man, the first I had seen since leaving Bombay. He was sitting cross-legged on the bench, listening to a cassette player with earphones, singing to himself, tapping out some beat fiercely on the fold-down table, and all the while smoking a cigarette. On the table were spread dozens of cassettes, books, newspapers, and tobacco articles of various persuasions. He was dressed in a white sarong. Later I would find out it was called a dhoti, and a white half-sleeved shirt, just like the rest of the native men on the train. As I stood in the doorway holding my guitar and dripping with sweat, bags and guitar falling at my feet, I must have presented a miserable sight. Suddenly, this man, he looked up, wild-eyed, took a good hard look at me, slipped the earphones off, and said in a heavy French accent, "Ah, you must be Iris's husband. Come in."